Yeah, you could take one and Bill can take the other, and then
Okay.
kind of everything will work out.
Or we could just stay here and do the same.
We don't have a quorum, so there may not be a meeting.
Yeah, we have to wait to see if one more person shows.
There she is. Look at her. We're going to have a meeting. All relax. Meeting will proceed.
Hey, Kara. Run home. Sorry.
You got your cell phone on you? Because Greg's going to be calling there.
Greg.
She went to call you.
I'm sorry, late people.
Only Greg.
I haven't seen my child, so I think I dress up before I got her.
Better late than never.
You get the gist of that.
Okay, it's 6:34. We're going to call this meeting to order. Doug's not here, so we want to take notes.
I'll be doing it.
Okay. At this point, I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So move. Shows, can we move the new business one up before old business? Since we got people here for that. Is that okay with you, Rick?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
I'll second that.
Second it with moving from new business appeal of zoning administration decision fence permit, Scott Maury Williams. So we're going to move that right before the old business. That'll be right after the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of the minutes.
So move.
Motion made. Ray, a second.
Second.
Carol makes a second. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Entertain a motion.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against it? Okay, carries. It is 6:35. We call a public hearing into effect rezoning from industrial heavy I-2 with a planned unit development overlay to eliminate the PUD overlay while retaining the underlying I-2 zoning. Dan, that one has to come from you, I suppose, or?
Yep. So this one is, again, a request to rezone, and this is coming from city staff, not from the landowner themselves. I wanted to correct one thing that is not quite true in my staff report. This property did used to be owned by the Morrison County Agricultural Society, as far as I can tell from the old records. Timing of things was different than what I said in the staff report, but the bottom line is that in 2012, this property has gone through several rezonings since it was annexed in, I believe, 1987. It was zoned some business district initially when it came into the city, and then 5 years later it was rezoned to a racetrack district that was in place at the time of the city, and then a few years after that it was rezoned again to when the racetrack district went away, and it was zoned to planned unit development. And then in 2012 it had the underlying industrial district added back into it. So currently it's zoned industrial 2, heavy industrial, and it has the PUD district over top of that. And what the proposal is here is to take away that planned unit development classification, because there's really no reason that we can see in our lines for that classification to it. So what it would do is it would go back to the underlying I-2 district just on its own. Property's been, or is in the process of being purchased. I don't know if it's been finalized yet, but I think the planned unit development district over top would only serve to confuse things and not be really applicable to what will happen on the properties. The proposal is to change that.
Okay, initiated by staff, the property owner here. We're going to talk to that person. You have the legal description and everything in place then?
Yes.
Okay.
We have the affidavit of mailing as well, on file before that, for the public hearing.
And all the neighbors were,
All the neighbors and the landowner themselves were notified.
no response?
I received one call with a kind of a factual question about it. Some concerns about traffic in that area. Those kind of things would come up at the time of development.
Anyone from the audience wish to speak?
Yes.
Operating LLC.
Robin Hensel, 807 First Street Southeast. Clarification, Ben, you just stated that the property hasn't been purchased yet, that it hasn't been signed? This is Charter Communications. CC8, operating LLC is Charter Communications. Are you telling me we're having a public hearing on a property that isn't, that they don't have the deed yet?
Charter Communications is the current owner, and they've owned it for many years.
Who's buying it?
It's another organization, I don't know technically, I don't know the legal name. And I don't know, being that it hasn't finalized, I guess I don't know if that's.
It's not relevant to who's purchasing the property, current owner.
I think it might be.
Might not be.
Explain how you think it would be.
Depending on what they want to do with the property, it would have a lot to do with this rezoning or this taking off of this PUD. Somebody please explain to me why this PUD overlay is being removed. I don't understand this. You guys put a PUD overlay sometimes, like you did a DeRozier, and now you're asking to take away that. There has to be a reason, and I would like, as the public, I'd like to know what that reason is. It must have something to do with who's purchasing this property.
So the PUD, oh, you still have the floor, sorry.
So if this is changing hands, how can we possibly be having a hearing about a property that's changing hands? That's in the process of being sold from one entity to the next. I don't understand that. So this property's in limbo, so to speak. And yet we're having a public hearing to determine to take away the PUD in association with this property. That doesn't seem legit.
Address that.
Yes, go ahead, Fred.
I'll have a seat.
The way the PUD district is set up in the current ordinance, it allows for, arguably allows for a pretty limited list of uses. And that PUD district, as I understand it, and I don't know all of the history of when that was created and how it was done, but when that PUD district was created, I think in that area, it had a lot to do with the fairgrounds area and how that was being developed. And when you have something like a fairgrounds where you have lots of multiple different kinds of uses on a property, or, unusual uses that aren't typical for an area, I think the idea was the PUD was the way to allow for those kinds of uses. But the way it's written up, it actually restricts it to a very limited list of uses. And so I think the thought was that as this property is transferring and as somebody decides what to do with it, they're going to be subject to the I-2 zoning district if this were to pass. And that would allow for whatever is allowed in the I-2 district. If it requires a public hearing, it's going to require a public hearing. If there's a subdivision going on, that's going to require a public hearing. If it's just allowed as a permitted use, it would just be permitted. But it's going to be subject to the same underlying zoning district that was there before it. And so the PUD would be going away because it really serves to hinder anything development out there more than anything otherwise. And there's other properties out there that possibly could have the same rezoning take place. We decided to keep it limited to this one at this point because of it didn't make sense to start broadening it out to other set of properties. So we didn't, in regards to other properties, we didn't have a PUD district or anything recently. And there is some confusion about that, and we don't have to get into it necessarily, but there's a planned unit development type of development, and then a planned unit development district. They're two different things that are taking place. So it'd may be something that we try to work out in the future. That's what it is.
I'm gonna exercise my right to speak again then, as your public
Okay.
hearing says I can. I want to publicly oppose this. Because it doesn't sound legitimate. Why not ask for this PUD overlay to be done after this property is purchased so the public and everyone can know what the property owner wants to do with this? Or is the property purchase contingent on the taking away of this PUD? And if so, that's another reason to oppose this. So I want to go on the record as opposing this.
Anyone else? Hearing none, this is open to discussion amongst the group here. Anyone wish to speak?
Make a motion to approve. I'll second, and then I'd like to ask just a couple of questions.
Motion made and seconded. Anyone want to speak?
Yeah, the adjacent property, do we have it? That's the property there, right? In blue. And the property directly north of that is currently industrial without PUD.
Mr. Chair, just to point of order, did we, you're correct, Rick. Is the public hearing still open?
Yes, you're right. This time we close the public hearing. 6:45.
So the question I have is that apparently the property labeled there that 48,707, 8,000, the property north of that 48,707, 3,000, it looks like in here. On the map that was with the packet, roughly indicates by color anyhow that that is I-2 and currently I-2.
Yeah, it's surrounded, I mean.
Okay.
to
It's
the west and
surrounded
to the
by
south.
I-2.
Right. The west and to the south is not in the city. This is the property here.
Might we consider, now the property to the east then, is that basically occupied by the,
Cell towers.
oh, the cell towers are in there? Okay, so we're really surrounded by industrial property and not developmental or, the fairgrounds lie exactly where they're north yet, right?
Yeah, north and east.
Right there.
So might we visit down the road as removing the PUD for the entire area? Or because of the fairgrounds, leave the PUD for the fairgrounds?
Yeah, that would be for a future discussion.
Yeah.
You know,
I know we
started
can't do it
exploring
tonight.
that. Yeah, we started exploring that, but decided it was going to raise too many issues to deal with tied in with this property, so.
So the PUD that was overlaid is really a carryover from thoughts that might be done with the property 20 years ago,
As I
and which has
understand,
not, none of those have developed.
Back about 92, 93, I think was when the PUD first came into play here.
Okay. 15 years.
That's a teasing property, right?
Just to the west, yeah.
Teasing part.
Right there, yep.
Could you read what the PUD actually said?
The ordinance?
What the PUD was? Oh, is it?
There was no PUD for it, it was just zone PUD.
This zone, just a.
Just an overlay thrown on it.
That's just zone PUD.
Okay,
In 92.
like
No, I'm
some-
sorry, 97.
Like some of the property we've straightened out in other places, make it a little bit more,
It was originally called racetrack. And then it was changed the racetrack to PUD. And then in 2012, we put the underlying zoning of I-2 with the PUD overlay on.
I'm just trying to figure out here how that PUD is gonna affect anyone buying it. What type of PUD was it? I mean, the purpose, to keep it as for agriculture for fairgrounds at the time, or you just don't know?
Yeah, it was never part of the, and that was, it was never part of the master plan for the fairgrounds. There is a master plan on file for the fairgrounds. At first glance, I think I had thought that maybe this was part of that property.
It's not.
Master plan, then it turned out it wasn't.
Okay,
When I look back at the minutes from the council, the planning commission and everything, when this was rezoned, to give it the PUD and the I-2 and all of that, there was never really any discussion of proposed uses or plans for that area. So I'm not really able to tell why everything was done the way it was. I suspect it was because it was in that area that was the Wolcott and the racetrack district at that time, and racetrack development. I obviously wasn't around at the time, but
This
it
is-
was.
now if the owner would have came in and asked for that PUD to be pulled out from there, because it's contingent on him selling the property, then it worked better than if we did it as a city.
That would be another option, yeah, I mean, it's certainly the council can initiate this, the planning commission can, and the property owner can initiate a rezoning.
But you haven't received that from that property owner or a person interested in buying it. No one's came in and said, can you remove that PUD? We might be interested in that property. You haven't heard anything like that.
No, nobody's requested it.
Okay.
And that's, you know, that's one of the discussion items is how we would prefer those kinds of things to happen. And I think in some cases, in my experience, it makes sense for the public to initiate something like this. Whether this is one of those cases is up to you, but I think there are some cases where it's justified, and other cases where, yeah, you can wait until, did this. You know, back when this was rezoned, I don't know that there was any property owner initiated it either.
You know, if somebody buys some property, they like to know exactly what it is zoned at, because it serves their best interest, what they're gonna do with it.
The inquiry I got was more about what can be done with this property. So as I looked into it, I saw, it's owned I-2, that does this PUD overlay, which, has that extra complexity of here are specific uses that can be allowed in the PUD. And it's pretty unusual uses. I mean, it's things like golf courses and racetracks and things that are not typical for any property to be developed. So when I saw that, my thought process was, if the city put this PUD overlay district on it several years back, and that reason, whatever the reason was, and I can't claim to know what that reason was for sure, but as far as I can tell, that reason doesn't seem to be valid anymore.
You know, we've had issues like that in other places in the city where it seemed like it was the thing to do way back then. But to fix up things, we had to go back and address a few of them. It makes it a whole lot easier to understand, and it just makes a whole lot more sense. So it's like Ray was saying too, you know, I'm looking at the map, even that property to the west of it is already, instead of agriculture, that's already industrial.
Right.
So that would be the one, if I was thinking they're gonna use it for any other purpose, would have been more of an agriculture type thing, but they decided to have that change, so. Okay,
Mr. President, may I ask a clarification, please?
sure.
This was staff initiated, but Ben Olson just stated that he had an inquiry. So, for public clarification, what was the inquiry, and why exactly is staff requesting this based on that inquiry?
That's what Ben said. He said somebody requested, what can the property actually be used for?
Right.
He wanted clarity, he started looking into it to make sure he was clear on it. He started noticing there was a PUD overlay on it, which can only be used for like a racetrack or something that's pretty odd, you know, not customary type stuff. So he felt like, why should that be there? That's what the discussion is right now. Why
Okay.
should we have a PUD on some property? It's almost unnecessary because right now there is no plan, but it's not in the master plan of the fairgrounds. It's not even part of that. It's not in any racetrack proposal anymore. It's been pulled off the shelf many years ago. And all this stuff kind of was just a fallout from all of that happening. So at
So-
the time, they probably put a PUD in case if they're gonna throw a fairgrounds in there or something. You know, I'm not even sure what the whole thing was, but it appears that's what they were trying to do.
Right, so if there was an inquiry, was it staff inquiry or public inquiry?
I have no clue what the
It was an inquiry as to what could be done with the property,
By a city
So that-
staff person or a public person?
by a member of the public.
It'd be like me if I'm driving by the property and I get some idea that I want to do something there, maybe try to purchase it. I might want to go in and find out exactly what that property, what you can do there. And while he was checking into that, we just saw there was probably an unnecessary PUD. You can go in there and put industrial in there right now. Somebody could purchase that property. This PUD isn't going to limit that anyway. So it's like, why is it even there?
But in parentheses, it says, or it says the applicant's the city of Little Falls, and then in parentheses, property owner CC8 Operating LLC, and that's Charter Communications. And the city has a contract with Charter Communications. So I'm confused, and I think there probably are other people here confused. They will have read less than this than I did on this. Was perhaps the inquiry made by Charter? There's a
I
contract.
asked that question. He said there was no inquiry by Charter. They didn't ask for this to take place.
Does this have to do with the new contract that is coming up for the city to sign with Charter on public access? For their contract with the city?
I mean, I
Not
get,
that we're aware of.
I get inquiries from the public as to what can be done with the property frequently. You know, so there's prospective buyers out there, people that are interested in property that's for sale, or whatever, I don't know. That's how this came up.
Is it, can I ask one more question?
Wait, we have to move on here. We need to have a discussion here too. Does anyone else have any questions?
That
here?
answered my question.
Okay. Kara?
Seems unnecessary.
Hear me?
You get my motion.
I have no questions. I see no problem with this. You know, as far as I'm concerned, we've done stuff like this in the past to straighten up areas, and if, you know, we hired Ben. That's part of what the city wants, is to make sure we go and check out everything from days gone by, because some of this stuff is pretty weird. You know, we've been trying to straighten this out. That's part of the planning commission ever since we've been here, straightening things out, because if we don't, then on the other hand, we're accused of not trying to fix things. So this is just another attempt that I'm seeing, is we're just trying to fix up and clean up things a little bit. So, I mean, all property out there is for sale at one time or another. There's always somebody inquiring about it. Not a whole lot of development is going on out there. To sit here and think that because the city has some connection with Charter that this is some subversive plan underneath the table, I haven't heard anything. Ben hasn't heard anything, like you said. That's not even part of what we're thinking here. We're thinking of cleaning up an area and maybe get rid of a unwanted PUD that's actually serving no purpose. I don't see how even having a PUD on there could be contingent on somebody buying it, because they still could build on that property. All I can see is it's just unnecessary. It doesn't have to be there.
Can I ask one more question? Is this to do with one of the shovel-ready projects that was discussed at the EDA?
No, it's not.
No, okay.
No, it's not. Okay, I entertain a motion.
You have a motion.
I mean, a vote, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I'm a little slow tonight, long day at the office.
At least you get there time.
Still trying to adjust to being with kids again. Anyway, moving on. Public hearing's over. We're gonna move that other item up. Dealing with a fence. So at this point, I guess we need to hear a little bit more about that. Who do I turn that one over to? Take that one too, Ben? Okay.
So in this past April, I received a permit application to put up a fence along 2 property lines from Scott and Lori Williams on Elm Street. And I issued that permit, and in that permit, in that permit approval, I specified that there's going to be a 6-foot fence along the northwest property lines. This is in your packet. It says any fencing located within 30 feet of the front lot line will not exceed its previously existing height of 4 feet, which is retired. In the last couple of weeks, I received a complaint that the fence was put up facing the wrong direction, or the direction not allowed by the ordinance. So I sent a letter, I looked into it, I went out there and looked at the fence. The good side, so to speak, was facing into the property that was up. The ordinance requires that the good side be facing out to the neighboring property. So I sent them a letter indicating that it was facing the wrong direction and gave them a time frame to fix that. So the appeal is of that decision, and I don't want to speak for Mrs. Williams, who's here tonight, so she can do that. If there's questions, I can fill in the gaps, but certainly let her speak for herself.
I suppose at this time, yeah, just give your name and address.
Okay, Lori Williams, Elm Street, 14424 Elm Street.
That's enough.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to speak up here, it's easier to hear.
When I called Ben and talked to Ben about the fence we were going to put up, we're new out there in Elm Street to the city. This is our first year. And we were in Belperry before, so we could put our fence up however we wanted. Good side, bad side, it didn't matter. And we already had a previous privacy fence put up on the east side and partial on the north side. So when I called Ben, I told him, I said, this is what we want to do. We want to take down an existing X fence with a top and bottom. We're taking down that old part and putting up a privacy fence to the north and the west side. Finishing that up the same way our other privacy fences are already put up. And so he wasn't, I don't know if he wasn't understanding what I wanted to do, but he did come out and check it out. He says, yeah, go ahead, get your permit. I need a map of what you're doing. And, you know, come in, get, you know, sign it. So we put up our fence the same way our other privacy fence is put up. And now there's a complaint by one of the neighbors of how it is facing. And we've already talked to Mr. Roach, and he does not care how our fence is facing towards his property. And on the west side, it's Byron Smith's property. And we have, like, as you can see, 3 acres of pine trees that are facing the fence that's facing the house. So there's not going to be, I don't see how it's going to be a problem with what's there. We were under this understanding that we could put it up, and we got the okay.
This was the sketch that they were submitted with the application.
Okay.
So this is, I guess, if you want north on top. So this fence was already existing
Plus part of that north side is
a
already
little bit
existing.
above here, right?
north side and then all the way on the west side. And we'll flip around again here. So that's the fence on the west, no, that's on the west side.
The west side.
This is going on the north side. This is the old fence here, that first section, and then we came down the other side. And then this is what fence was in place on the west side. And I believe on the north side too, that same kind of fence.
Correct.
Right. Before the property. So the reason I sent the letter was because of the direction that the fence was facing, but then as I looked at it more, I realized that that first 30 feet back from the right of way shouldn't have been 6 feet tall either, as I had specified in the approval. So that part wouldn't be 4 feet tall, or as tall as the previous existing fence.
Which is 6 feet.
Well, I don't know. I didn't take measurements, to be honest, of that old fence.
It was about 5 feet.
I think it was less than 6. It was probably
Yeah.
more than 4.
So the old fence section, even though it doesn't really fit into our 4 foot or less, because they were annexed in, that's kind of grandfathered. True.
Yeah, my determination was that yes, it's essentially a grandfathered situation where they can replace it. There's some state statutes that allow for replacement of non-conforming structures. Something that doesn't meet the ordinance can be replaced to the way it was. And so that's why I had set it to be taller than 4 feet. It was no taller than what it was there before.
It actually looks like it steps down here, according to the picture. If you drop that down a little bit, no, the other picture, that's the one I'm talking about.
I think these are pretty similar to the same height. It's just the
Okay.
Down
angle
just a
that's
little
taken.
bit. It's down just a little bit, not much bigger, just a little
Looks
bit
like
more on
maybe
our
6
property.
inches,
Yeah,
yeah.
we put a little bit more on our property. Like I said, the north side, Mr. Roach, I mean, he's not the one that's complaining about it, it's the west side. And like I said, it faces 3 acres of pine trees, which
It hasn't been that long ago we put this whole fence ordinance into play because we had an issue as far as what the good side of the fence was and wasn't. So we had to,
And at the last
establish-
amendment, that was already in place, the good side basically.
yeah,
We clarified it, we
we
changed the
clarified
language.
which it was.
Trying to clarify what we meant by good side, but
Some people prefer to see the horizontal rails versus just everything up and down. But we did clarify that. Were you aware, like when you gave the Williams instructions on what they have to do as far as off the property line heights?
Yeah.
Good side of fence, bad side, or did they receive a slip?
I recall having a conversation about some of those things. I don't know whether we talked about the good side or the bad
No,
side,
we
to
did
be
not.
honest. The application form, as far as I know, there was 2 ways to get the application form. One was from City Hall, and unless there was some unusual circumstance, the standard stock of permit applications that we have ready to go in the office is 2 pages front and back, or 1 page front and back. And one side is what she filled out, and the other side is a series of instructions or requirements for fences that includes discussion of the good side facing out. The other way to obtain it would have been the website. It's possible that somebody could have printed out one page and not the other. I don't know. It's one of those things, where there's times where I wish we would almost just put every regulation somehow in permit approval, so that it's very clear to people what they're required to do. But if we don't do that, then it's not practical in every case to write down every single requirement that comes with it. And so there's an assumption, whether good or bad, there's an assumption that people understand the ordinance. I try to explain them as best I can or figure out so we're on the same page, but I don't always succeed.
We thought we were
Say
putting it up
everything.
correct after we talked to Ben, just because we told him what we were gonna do, and I said we were gonna add on to our previous, our prior fence that's already there, same way, same height. He said 6 feet, and I said, yeah, and he said, okay, and so we had no idea of the city rule, because we were previously Belle Prairie.
And to be clear, the 6 feet is fine for everywhere except for that first 30 feet back. And in this case, you know, it's a different situation because it's not like it's house on house on house.
No.
You know, so that's kind of what it's designed for, they have that limitation. But, you know, in the future, there could be more houses along there, so that's part of that. So that
Each one of them fence sections are what, 7 feet, 7 or 8?
usually wide, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, you know, cut off the next 22 feet and drop it down.
I don't
You
think
know,
the
the whole
fence
front
starts right.
side, I'm just wondering about that,
I
but.
think the front side here, don't Frank Bruce Hughes, Carol, down here.
Okay.
This is the north side, that's the back.
That's the back of it.
And I don't think the question is the height of the fence, doesn't seem to be.
It's
The
just-
fact that it's facing the wrong way.
Well, it's both. I mean,
But-
the complaint was about the way it was facing.
Okay.
But that first 30 feet back from the right of way, which I think is approximately where the hydrant is. Because that's on right, so where the right of way is.
So the fence that's,
Property line is, that's the property line. Yeah.
So
So,
that X-braced fencing was replaced.
correct.
yes,
So 30 feet back from approximately this hydrant would be where it can only be 4 feet tall. And then after that, it can step up to 6 feet.
Okay.
And you said it's at about 5 feet now?
no, it's 6 feet right now.
Okay,
The
okay.
old one was about 5.
All right, yeah, I'm
Almost
sorry.
5
You
feet.
should step down to 5 feet at that point, because that's what you're going to do.
Okay, I think that's about as much information as we can get.
Frank, can I speak?
Yeah.
Bill Anderson, 14452 Elm Street. I'm here representing Byron Smith, and I did visit him, you know, in the facility last weekend, and his request was to turn the fence around and put it the way the ordinance says, okay? Is what Byron's request was. Now, the other question that we have, in speaking with Byron, is, you have this picture, Ben?
That one? Yeah.
Right there. You see where that post is right there?
I was looking at that, yeah.
Okay, that post is at 156 feet. That post is at 156 feet. I'm in the process of trying to get a fence in my backyard. And I'm fighting with the city because I'm fighting over 25 feet to the north of my property off the beacon surveys that shows roach owns into my backyard. Okay? So, my lawyer, Peter Vogel, did a little research for me. And in the research, we found, my tax statement shows 180 feet from Elm Street to the back property line. That's what my tax statement shows, okay? Williams's tax statement shows 156 feet to that post right there. And there is a
That post being that black item right there you're
long
talking?
post right here. And there is a survey post right in the ground there.
Okay.
Okay, from that point on, 23 feet to the north is another post. 3 feet from that post, that 180 post, is another post. So the question comes in, the tax statement says 156 feet to that post, and their fence goes back to 180 feet. I'm going right off the tax description from the courthouse. And then if you go into my backyard at 156 feet, in the Williams setback of that 4x4 post, it's right there, is another Fester's post. Now my question is that my post or is that Williams's?
So, that sounds like a survey issue.
It is a survey issue, but what I'm getting at is why am I'm paying taxes at 180 feet, they're paying taxes at 156 feet, and there are 3 poke pegs there. So if we go back down and go, this is gonna be off the subject, but we're gonna go right down to the corner of Roach's property and Byron Smith's property, There was another post from the surveyor from St. Cloud. Roach put their cap on top of that peg. So we come back to the other, to this line over here. There's 3 pegs in there. So I'm wondering, what peg is the Roach Development Company working off of? 1, 2, or 3?
I think this is something we can't answer.
No, but it's coming
What's
up
that
with
got-
this fence.
what's
This
that got
fence
to do-
is the part of the thing.
You're saying the fence is
23 feet
23 feet past their property line?
Mhm. according to the tax statement.
Mr. Anderson, like I told you last Friday, the best thing that you can do is get a surveyor so that you can have your lot surveyed to know exactly where that's at.
I understand
The
that.
best thing that we can go off is this right here, which shows that currently on your particular permit that you're requesting, you don't have ownership of it. And until you show that you have.
But what is this post right here, a peg, and what is the peg over here?
Those line up pretty close to where that lot line is shown on Beacon.
But is Beacon a legal survey point?
No, and that's why you need to get a survey of your property to show what you own.
Okay, we go back, I have a survey of my property, and I also have 3 other surveys.
If you have it, please provide it to us because we haven't seen it.
Ben has got it.
That's one of Mr. Roach's that shows of the Muskie property. You have one from 64 and one from 83, both of which for the Muskie property. We need one for yours where you currently live that shows that you own that parcel, where you're asking for a permit.
I'm asking for a permit, but what I'm doing is I'm representing Byron Smith tonight at that peg. What does that peg mean? That fence is 23 feet over the property line, 26 feet over the property line.
Byron doesn't own anything north of that line.
No, but I guess the answer is that I am finding over 25 feet. Over 25 feet off the Beacon survey.
What I
Which is
can
not-
recommend you tonight, just like I did on Friday, get a survey of your lot so that you can show what you currently own. That's the best we can do.
I'm saying Beacon is not legal, and you're saying that's all we got to use. So I'm supposed to spend the money.
If you also read Beacon, it also says excluding the property shown on that plat south of the south boundary line. Read that exclusion portion in there, and you'll see the area that you're talking about.
But why can't we end up saying that the fence is in a wrong spot? It's 26 feet over, and I'm asking the point, what are these pegs under for? And I asked you the same question. This project that's going on out there, Byron has no answers.
Bill, we have to stick to what the Williams are asking here.
Okay, that's fine, but I'm saying that
It's nice to be aware of these things and that, but we can't solve any of that here. We're not part of
Sounds like a
this.
civil issue to me if you're fighting.
Yeah,
about
it does, and we can't deal with that. We can only deal with.
Okay, the reason I wanted to bring it up is because Byron brought it up about that post. And that nobody wants to look at that post saying, what is it there for?
Only a registered land surveyor can dictate what that is.
But
If you have a question on it, hire a surveyor to tell you what that is.
okay, but Byron wants this fence turned around, he wants a good size towards his property. And that's the way
what we're
ordinance is.
doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Robin Hensel, 807 First Street Southeast. Jeremy just said it's a civil issue. So is the fact that it's contested now. One of the neighbors is contesting that that fence isn't even on their legal property. So I believe that's a civil issue as well as a zoning issue. If the assumption was that the pegs that are in the ground are accurate, but now they're maybe not, whose responsibility is to prove that? I believe your fence ordinance states that the person wanting to construct a fence has to get a survey proving that or permission from the neighbors. They do not have permission from all the abutting neighbors. And that's an issue that you guys will have to address. So it's not legal in a number of ways. It may not be on their property, number one. It exceeds the height level, which you guys decided on, and I recommended you not do that for a whole bunch of reasons. including there are numbers of fences currently in the city, in the front yard, that exceed 6 feet. So this, the fact that you rezoned or you changed your ordinance could be a problem with other properties as well. But certainly they don't have the permission slip from all the neighbors, so I hope you guys make the right decision.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams, the fence on that side of the property was there currently, right?
Yes,
So there was a fence there for years and there was never a discrepancy over the property line to switch the
never.
fence?
And about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we did have our land surveyed. We do have pegs on each of the corners. We did have it surveyed, and Bill is wrong.
There are no pegs on the north side. Pegs are on the south side.
And you must have pulled them out again, I don't know. But there are pegs back there. I can bring my survey in to prove that we own.
Oh yeah, there is a peg at 156 feet. Yeah, there is. Yes, there is. On the east side. And the other peg, that steel post, is on the west side. But it's two different surveyors' pegs.
Anyways.
Well, we can't decide if the peg is right or wrong. I guess we can talk about, that's something that surveyors are gonna have to deal
I
with.
understand.
We can talk about as far as the height, as far as the facing of it right now. So that's pretty much, and then if parts have to be removed or not removed, that has to be between the surveyor, your property, where his property is and everything, and deal with it that way. We can't even consider that. Anyone else have something to say about the whole facing issue? Height?
Just a couple of things. First of all, I can sympathize with your situation. You went ahead with a project. You said you weren't aware of the codes. You know, we've all heard the statement that lack of knowledge does not excuse. You know, a lack of knowledge of the law, you know, isn't an excuse for not doing it. I would indicate or feel that for sight lines as needed on that, we refer to the first 30 feet. That's basically, we use that for sight lines, for traffic. Okay, I know there's no traffic back there now, but in days future, we don't know. Don't know what that's going to be. So we have to keep the sight lines clear. So that foot or so would probably have to be trimmed. Also, we've made it clear on a number of occasions that the good side of the fence, that being the aesthetic side of the fence, is to be facing your neighbor's property, so that the post and braces would be on the inside of your property. Now, I don't know how difficult this is going to be, and if this fence is probably right on the property line.
It's within a foot or 6 inches or something.
All right, so what it would probably mean is removing that fence and installing it on the other side. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
Just on the west side, or?
I think you'd have to do all the new fencing. The old fencing would remain, I would guess.
It's grandfathered in.
But all the
stuff.
new fencing would have to be turned around. Now, that isn't gonna match your old fencing. Decision you'll have to make, I guess.
I'm not
So,
sure.
and regards, the survey's a whole nother issue. Don't even wanna go there. If there turns into be a matter that someone's over a line someplace and the fences have to be taken down and removed, that's somebody else's issue, not ours here.
Okay.
So that's my thoughts on it.
Any other thoughts?
And Ben, maybe you said this, but in the letter that you wrote, it was clearly stated about the 4 feet whichever's higher. It doesn't say clearly in here about the aesthetic side and whatever. Was she handed any paper, or was just word of mouth explaining the nice side? Did I miss
I was
that?
say otherwise compliant with city code.
Okay, so was she given then the city code? Like-
Well, I think that was one thing that Ben was touching on. There's kind of two places you can get the fence permit. One is if you come to City Hall, there's a front and back. The front is where you
Right.
fill out all the stuff that you see. The back is where you've got all the
That
requirements.
stuff, that stuff.
That's just right there.
Okay,
Online, have you looked at that one? I'll be honest, I have not.
Well, it's been updated now. We actually partly in response to this, I made some changes to the application form to try and make it more clear. You know, so that the page they're drawing on and writing on and signing has the information on it. So I think what's online now has been updated. This was the form, and this is what would have been online, I would imagine. I would assume. So this is the page that the person signs. And this is the information side. And this was created, I don't know, several years back, by city staff at the time. It's right here where it talks about, which side this is. So, yeah, I never feel good when we're not on the same page, and it's a problem like this, and so I try to address that by amending the form so that it's more clear that doesn't help the situation.
Any others? We need a motion here.
I don't know what kind of motion there would be. There's a letter that's been issued, which is now about a month out. I suppose we could have that as of today's date if we don't approve the changes.
So currently you've got an appeal to that particular letter. Tonight you have to decide whether or not you're going to grant that appeal or recommend granting that appeal to the council or not.
So that's how the motion would have to go. You make a motion to approve the appeal or not approve it, and then we'd have to vote accordingly.
I'll make a motion that we do not.
Motion should be positive.
I know, but how are we gonna make it positive? That we don't approve it.
You can, I guess, if you're gonna have to do a positive, it would be affirming.
Make a motion to approve the appeal and then vote negatively?
Oh, is that what you're going to do?
If that,
You want the motion to be in the affirmative?
But then you're going to have to approve it. I mean, you could do it either way, whichever one you want first.
let's do it the simplest way here.
I'll make a motion that the appeal be denied, and that but as a corollary to that, that a new time requirement for compliance be effective starting tomorrow.
So that the time frame I gave,
In
the
60
letter
days.
starts tomorrow. Instead of-
The 60 days would be to start tomorrow. And if it goes to the council, they can set the date limit.
Anyone gonna second that?
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. We can have more discussion at this point. The only thing is I want to concur with Ray. We've had some issues with fencing, and that's why we put that in there. I think we'd be opening up a can of worms if we would say we're going to give favor to one person over another right now. And Ray did mention ignorance of the law. I mean, you ever get a speeding ticket, you just say, well, I didn't know you couldn't go that fast here. I mean, we're supposed to know these things, and I kind of look at it that way. I don't like being caught on that end of it, but it happens. So basically, I'm looking at just from the standpoint of how the ordinance is written, that I'm in favor for denial on this one personally.
And just to be clear, you said it was just put in, there was always an ordinance, we just were coming up with definitions. to
More of a
clarify it.
definition of which
So
is.
it's always that good side faces to neighbors.
Anyone else? Hearing none? All those in favor, say aye. Against? Hearing none, motion carries. That it is in denial, I'm not gonna allow
So
it.
does that have to go to city council, or does that end here?
Mr. President, may I ask you a question? Again, for public clarification.
This is
How,
pretty much done.
can someone cite to me, Ben, or someone on the committee, cite to me where this allowance is that you can change the date of the warning letter, saying that they were in violation of the law? Where is that in the ordinance? I'd certainly like to
I don't
research
think
that.
there is, I just thought that would be logical, since they had appealed, to cite them and say, all right, get it fixed. Now, instead of 60 days, you have 30 days. I think it's just a kind gesture. I'd give you the same.
And like Ray said, he said the city council will look at it and just might say no. They say stick to the original issuance of the, when they sent the note to them that it wasn't in compliance. I mean, that's up to the city council. We are just a recommending body. We can't recommend anything. Ray was stating that it would be a kind gesture. And the council can hear that, but they're still gonna make the decision on if they're gonna stick to the original issuance and the citation or not, so we're not changing anything here. Okay, that's done. Old business is storage POD regulations. I wanna hear this one.
Okay, so last month we talked about these a little bit, and you asked that we come back with some draft language. So that's what we have back this month, is some draft ordinance language regarding these portable storage units. Again, the quick background is that we have not very clear ordinances right now as to how we're supposed to handle these. So we're trying to clarify that, so it's using for the public, us as staff, everybody. So the draft in front of you is a reflection of the direction we got from the various issues we discussed last month. It's all up for discussion. We can make some more changes. We can ask us to go back to the planning board on some of it again. But eventually, if we're going to adopt this, we will go through the public hearing. We have to schedule it. So I can go through it.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
It's short, it's less than 2 pages. I like 2-page ordinances.
Doesn't always happen.
Let's knock this thing out.
Okay, so starting on the first section there, incidentally, we would be adding this to section 11.07, subsection to that, for portable storage units. We would not allow more than 2 per legal lot of record at any one time. I don't know that we discussed this last time, but I felt like we should discuss it today. The second statement there about adjacent lots of record on common ownership, how we handle those. So if you happen to have 2 or 3 or 4 platted lots from 1910 that you treat as your one lot, are you going to get 2 storage units per original lot or per your current lot? So we felt like we should discuss that.
Well, that would make sense to have adjacent lots considered part of the unified property, as there were a lot of 40-foot lots in parts of the city in the 60s. You could have 4 40s together, and somebody's got one piece of property on there. It's always been considered or built on as one piece of property. You might get 4 tax statements on it. but it's one piece of property, I think it would be logically viewed as a.
So, yeah, I took a more conservative approach with that. I think the flip side of that is if you had somebody that had two lots next to each other that were, 400 feet wide each.
Oh.
Where you can say in that case that you can't have two on each of the property.
Maybe that would be an issue, or it's gonna matter either way, if you got an 80-foot lot.
Because we do have,
40s,
we do have time restrictions
There's
on
time
it.
restrictions and height restrictions.
Yeah.
It's not people moving them in for years for storage, it's in and out, just for construction. Will be your lengthy amount of time.
As far as I'm
Who
concerned,
wants to
we're-
pay the rent on 4 of them?
Right.
You know, you're gonna try to get by with as little as possible and move it all, and take care of business.
Right.
I think we addressed that. Construction sites.
Do you want me to go through the whole thing and then come back to certain sections, or do you want?
Let's,
Let's just keep going.
Highlight through.
So letter B, the minimum property line setbacks are gonna be at least 5 feet in every situation, but otherwise they're gonna be whatever it is for that district, or accessory structure.
Sounds good.
Letter C, they have to be on firm level ground, such that they're not gonna slide or tip per se. Letter D, these are places where they cannot be placed. So the first one is in the right of way, unless they're on a trailer, something like wheels on it, that's all. Number 2 is that site triangle at intersections, can't be placed in that site triangle. 3 is in off-street parking spaces that are required by ordinance. So if you're required to have 20 spaces, you can take one out with one of these units. If you happen to have more spaces than you are required to have, then I still think that one in there. That's number 3. Number 4, any residential property cannot have these, which doesn't, if it doesn't already have a dwelling on it, unless there's active construction going on, so if they're building a dwelling, then they can do that. And then I have this sort of clause in there that it should not apply when a storage unit is on a property adjacent to another property of common ownership. So this is that situation again.